Hey traders, welcome back to another daily profit and loss recap video. Today is Friday, July 7th. I just finished up trading for the morning and I locked in $1,808 in profits. In this video, I'm going to explain exactly how I did just that, talk about my entries and my exits in these stocks, as well as my thought process behind each of these trades. So make sure to stay tuned so you can take something from my trading and apply it to your own. Now the first trade that I want to talk about is with the stock CSTO. This was a big gap up this morning in pre-market. It had a really strong pre-market trend. You can see a lot of higher lows and higher highs forming all the way up until the open. And naturally, because of that, this was one of my top watches this morning for a gap and go. Typically with a gap and go, what I would be looking for would be that opening range breakout, which would be a push above the high of that first 5-minute candle. First 5-minute candle's high in this case is $20.26. And we can see it forms that high, pulls back, and kind of just consolidates and trades sideways along the VWAP for well over an hour after the market opens. Okay, so instead of waiting for it to potentially end up breaking out above that opening range breakout, I decided to buy into this consolidation period, and I took my starter position once it had this pullback and started to bounce back above the VWAP right here, which I then later on added into that position as it was consolidating near the VWAP. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at the 1-minute chart because there's something really important that I want to talk about that we saw happening all throughout the morning. We can see there are a few times where we get these very quick sell-offs to the downside that happen all within just about a minute and then come straight back up as soon as that sell-off is over. Most of the time when you see a sell-off like this, it would be seen as a sign of weakness or a sign of a large amount of selling happening. But you have to keep in mind that if the stock bounces straight back up and is still able to consolidate and still able to climb slightly higher, that is a sign of strength in the stock. And now what happens is all of the people that saw this stock starting to break down and opened up a short position are now going to be at a loss in that short position. And they're just going to add fuel to the fire when they start to cover when the stock eventually starts to break out to the upside. So I noticed that starting to happen, and that's why I was confident enough to add more into this position. I ended up with 1,500 shares, and my average cost was right at about the VWAP, which was $18.89. Okay, so the key level for me here that I was really keeping my eye on, that I wanted to see the stock eventually break out above, was right at about $19.40. We can see that level acting as resistance all throughout the morning. So finally, right at about 11 o'clock, it was able to start breaking out above that level. Volume spikes back up a bit, and from there it starts a nice uptrend. I locked in profits in the high 19s, just under this $20 key area from the market open and from the pre-market session. On that trade, I ended up with a total of $1,411 in profits. Keep in mind this trade with CSTL along with my other trades today were all posted in real time in the Market Master group. So if you're interested in hearing about the stocks that I'm trading, make sure to come join us in the Market Master group. There's going to be a link down below in the description to get signed up. Okay, but moving on to the second trade for me, this was GRRR. GRRR ended up being a massive runner this morning. We can see another stock gapping up in pre-market. Naturally, again, this is going to be a top watch for a gap and go. And what we see at the market open is, if we zoom in here, we have a lot of sideways choppy price action, but it never really quite sells off enough to look for a dip buy. And it never, at least until later in the morning, breaks above that opening range level of $3.80. So there was really no opportunity to buy into this until about 10:15 this morning, once it finally pushes above that opening range breakout level. And that is exactly when I got into my trade on this stock. I bought into that breakout. It happened very quickly, but this was one of my top watches. So luckily I already had the chart pulled up and was ready to buy into that breakout. And very quickly I locked in some profits in the high 390s. I held on to a small portion of my shares from there. And once we got this rejection from the $4.20 area, that's when I sold out of the rest of my shares and locked in the rest of my profits. On that trade, I ended up with $387 in profits. Now, as we can see, I definitely missed out on the second run here because it ended up consolidating above the pre-market highs and above that opening range breakout level before curling back up, breaking above that morning high and ramping all the way up to a high of $5.79. So there was huge potential there, and I definitely should have been back into this once I saw that it was consolidating above those pre-market highs. But all in all, it was a solid scalp from that opening range breakout. we take a look at the Market Master group, I know some traders traded this a little bit better than I did this morning. They were more patient and had a few more scalps than I did. But the opening range breakout levels were posted this morning at 9:33 a.m. And we had GRRR with an opening range breakout level of $3.80. So anyone in the group could have very easily gotten into that breakout, been a lot more patient than I was, and made a really solid profit from this trade. Okay, and moving on to the last trade for me today. This was with the stock TOP. TOP was gapping up slightly in pre-market, but what I'm more interested in is the daily chart in this situation. We have a big spike up last week, and pretty much for the past 4 days, it has been fading off lower and lower and lower. So once we saw this gapping up slightly today, I knew that there was potential for this to have a nice run, especially if it pulled back down into the low sevens. The risk and reward in that case would have been really solid. So at the market open, we see that there is briefly a quick spike up towards 8. It pulls back down into the 720s. I took a starter position at the time, only 500 shares, because this was trading on pretty thin volume at the time. There were 5 to 10 cent spreads between the bid and the ask at times, and I didn't want to be in a position that was too heavy in case this started to dump down to the low sevens. So I took a 500 share position at $7.28. It bounced around for about 30 minutes before it really started to bounce up towards the VWAP. And within that time frame, I kind of lost my patience. I was focusing on my other 2 trades for the day. So once it failed to bounce a few times, I ended up selling at pretty much break even. I locked in a total of $10 in profits on this trade. But after I got out of this trade, it did end up finally bouncing up towards the VWAP, which is what I was looking for in the first place. But I just didn't have the patience for this trade, and I wasn't a fan of how these bounces didn't last very long and how weak the volume was within these bounces. So again, I sold for a profit of just $10 on that trade. Okay, so those are my 3 trades for the day. I locked in $1,808 in profits. Really solid way to end the week. Even though I only traded 2 days this week, I am happy with my trading because one of the most important aspects about trading is knowing when not to trade. And on both Monday and Wednesday, because of the 4th of July being on Tuesday, even though the market was open on those days, there were very few solid setups, and I decided to pretty much sit out of trading, didn't take any trades on those days, and then I was able to end the week with some solid profits because of the trade setups that came on Thursday and Friday. Okay, so hopefully you found some value in this video. If you did, please make sure to give it a like and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you want to hear about the stocks that I'm trading in real time, as well as work with our team of traders, get access to our day trade and swing trade alerts along with our scanner streams, all of that can be found in the Market Master group, which will be linked down below in the description. Thank you again for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and good luck with your trading.